Education Club at Intel. Today is July the 9th, 2021, and our topic for today is buying and selling vacant land. So before I introduce our guests, Mike and Liia, who I'm very excited to have here, um, I would like to go through and let you know what's going on in the club for upcoming events. And if you are on the line, can you make sure that you are on mute so that everybody doesn't hear noises and small distractions that might be in the background? So first of all, here is our club site. I think everybody knows this, but just in case you're new, we have a SharePoint site. And if you just look for Real Estate Investment Club, you can go to our SharePoint site. There's a video over here that will walk you through how to get email notifications of our upcoming events, as well as a link over here that brings you to all of our upcoming meetings.
And
Daniel, I don't believe you're sharing your screen.
Yeah.
The screen is not sharing. Okay. Thank you for telling me. And voila, there it is. All right, so we have a link over here with upcoming meetings as well as our video recordings. So if you'd like to go back, we've got about 60 or 70 meetings that have been posted at this point. We've been doing this since September of 2019. You can go here to video recordings and it'll bring you over to Intel's video portal, where you can find recordings of all sorts of people that have spoken here before. In addition to that, Mike and Liia are going to be going up on our Speakers Hall of Fame list, which is another place where you can find all the information you could care to find about previous speakers. So we have here, for instance, if you want to go find Ang Tang, very popular guy. A lot of people have mentioned him to me. He talked about qualified opportunity zones and Bitcoin RE funds. He's over at Tozy Capital. You can find his contact information here, a link to his recording. Oftentimes we'll have the link to the slide deck here as well. So this is just a great resource if you want to go find people that have spoken to us before. We have Jason Hartman and KK Singh and lots of people that are very involved here, as well as our regional people. We've had people from Portland, California, and Arizona coming in to give local market updates. So make sure to check that out. And first of all, we're going to go, since people have been asking for a little bit more of an update on the news, I'm going to start maintaining this real estate news section. And this is just an area to give you some articles of interest that I came across over the last week. If you find articles of interest, feel free to send them to me. And I'll put them here. Or I think this is an open SharePoint. You can go in and edit it if you want to. But the articles that I have here today are, first of all, a profile of Geeta Gopinath, and I hope I said that right. But Geeta is a middle-class Indian girl who has gone all the way to being the chief economist at the IMF. And the reason why she hit the news here recently is because she's made comments about the Fed and recent inflation talks that have gone on at the Fed. We're starting to see people like Janet Yellen, the previous head of the Fed, and others from the IMF coming out and saying, well, there may be some inflation on the horizon. I'm sure you've heard that in the news as well. So here are a couple of articles about some of the people that are coming out of coming out and talking about the potential for inflation, and of course the Federal Reserve as well. If you go into the FOMC meetings minutes, their last meeting was on June 16th, and so we're due for another one here, in the next week or so. But previously to that, they were the chairman was quoted as saying, "We're not even thinking about raising interest rates." That was 2 months ago when he said that. And this last month, apparently, they went from not thinking about to talking about real estate interest rate rises, or just interest rate rises. So we're starting to see some perhaps comments about inflation and inflation moving up. Is it temporary? Is it going to continue? It's really yet to be seen, but it's creating definite ripples throughout the market. One of the other stories that I wanted to highlight here is lumber prices. Since 2020, April of 2020, lumber prices have actually spiked over 600%. And as you can imagine, that means that people that are building homes or building shopping centers or apartments are going through incredible rises in their price of their cost of goods. And so lumber prices have been one of the primary reasons why housing starts have fallen so much in the last few months and even the last year. So housing starts are down even while home values are up, which means it's a good time to be buying properties and fixing them up, properties that are already built where the costs are already baked into the purchase price. And so you're seeing an appreciation in value add type homes and value add, multifamily apartments, value add shopping centers, whatever it happens to be that are being purchased lower, at least lower than the cost of development. And the two kind of cultural references that I want to bring out here is that people are starting to see home values and that building new homes is becoming more expensive. And so people are getting into the flipping game. Here we have an article, if you're interested, about celebrities who are flipping. So we have Miley Cyrus has apparently purchased a house out of Los Angeles. She purchased it for $5 million, put in some rehab, and turned around and sold it for $7.2 million. Apparently she has a decorating flair, and that's about all I know about Miley Cyrus, to be honest. But go ahead and check that out. She is part of the flipping community. And the last thing I want to mention here is that I recently just saw an interview with Emmett Smith, and every time that I hear this guy speak, I feel like I get something of value from him. And so I was really impressed. I know him, obviously as a footballer, but he's going into business in a couple of different ways, and he's also really big into commercial real estate. And so he talks about that in this interview here as well. He's good to just listen to for general wisdom, I think. And so check out that interview with Emmett Smith. And with that, actually, the next thing we're going to do really quickly is talk about what's upcoming, and then I'll introduce our guest speakers. So today we have Mike and Liia on buying and selling vacant land. Next week, we're going to be talking with Daniel Weisfield, who is one of the top 50 owners of mobile home parks nationwide. He's going to come in, and most of his parks are in California and Oregon. And so he's going to come in and talk to us a little bit about that market and what it means to invest in a mobile home park. After that, looks like we have 1 week in here that I need to fill. But after that, we're going to be having Edward Gray. Edward Gray is a commercial lender and also a really fun guy to talk to. He's very talkative and can talk about Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HUD, CMBS loans, bridge loans, anything to do with real estate financing at length. He's a really well-connected, and that'll be a really good session for all of us. After that, some people that Mike and Liia know, Keely and Tracy Hubbard, are coming in. They're going to be talking about syndicating vineyards. So what does it take to set up a syndication process where you bring a whole group of people together and then buy a vineyard? What does that look like over, time? What do the returns look like? And so this will be an interesting talk if you're interested in viticulture or just growing or investing in your own grapes. After that, we also have Managing Turnkey Properties with Elenis Camaro, Brandon Hall from the Real Estate CPA Group, who's coming in to talk about all your questions. So have your CPA questions ready for Brandon when he comes in. And a little bit later, we're going to be inviting Eng Tang back by popular demand. He's going to be talking about tax minimization strategies. So make sure that you get your questions ready for that. He was extremely popular the first time around. A lot of the reason he was popular the first time around is because he started the Real Estate Investment Club at Apple. And he got into real estate, and now he has his own firm. And interestingly enough, the guy who runs the real estate club over at Amazon, I just talked to him this last week. He's actually going over to Apple. And so he's connecting up with Eng Tang, and he's going to probably start working over there at the real estate club. But both of them are going to be coming up here in the near future. And the guy from Amazon, his name is John Tapley. We're actually going to be having a webinar in 3 weeks that talks about how to borrow against your RSUs in order to fund your real estate project. And that's not going to be an Intel function like this is. We're actually combining the people from the Amazon Club, the Apple Club, the Dell Club, and a few other clubs, bringing them all together into a Zoom meeting, basically, that's external from any of those companies. So if you're interested, we're going to start running regular webinars that are pooling the people from those groups. And so we're going to be speaking to people that have jobs and are looking at investing. And those will be mainly what the topics are. So that's called the Real Estate Investing for Professionals group. And if you're interested, shoot me an email. I'll send out a link probably soon to sign up. All right, Mike and Liia, it's great to have you here. I've known Mike and Liia now for, what, a year or so? I was looking at our last emails are June of last year. So it's been a little while. Mike and Liia are also multifamily investors, which is how I know them. But they do vacant land, and they have a great business going that frankly funds your lifestyle, right? I always see you out traveling and hiking and having fun, and so they're going to tell us a little bit about how they do that and what it means to invest in vacant land. Mike and Liia, take it away.
Thanks, Daniel. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
All right. And also, I have just a kind of a short presentation. I don't know if it's okay if I request control, or I can just talk through it either way.
Yeah. Are you not able to share? If you look up at the upper right-hand corner, do you see the leave button? And then right to the left of it, there's an up arrow on a white button. That should let you share.
Open the share tray. Yeah.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Awesome. So is this up?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So thanks for having us to your investment club, and that's a great thing you do. I was fascinated when when we met, we started talking about this, and I have heard your Miley Cyrus ringtone, by the way, so don't try to downplay your familiarity with Miley.
Hey, you outed me.
So yeah, Daniel invited us to come talk about a little land investing, which is near and dear to our hearts. It's kind of given us a renewed like a second chapter in life, really. So we love it. Like you said, it fuels our lifestyle today. And so we're going to run you through a little bit about our journey, just kind of a brief background into how we got into land in the first place. Then we'll talk a bit about what land investing is, what's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then a few suggestions should you want to get into land yourself. It should be fairly brief. We'll hopefully leave a little time for some Q&A there at the end. So a little bit about us. Liia and I kind of both embarked upon the normal life, right? We went to school. We both got corporate jobs. I was in some of the big names in tech. I was with Motorola back when Motorola was king of pagers. Early cell phone days. Then I went to Nokia to run supply chain when they were on top of the mobile phone game, and then transitioned into Microsoft when Microsoft bought the handset part of Nokia. I went in to run the supply chain at Microsoft. Liia, same thing. Was working away, grinding out some long days before we met, and then in 2006. I took an overseas assignment with Nokia to start a manufacturing facility and run operations there. And Liia happened to be working in the office in Nokia, and we met probably the first official weekend I was there to just really do a scouting trip, and kind of had an instant attraction with each other. And we formed our own life partnership kind of quickly thereafter. Right. So yeah, we met back in 2006.
We met in Romania, by the way.
Yeah. So Liia's from Romania. She was living there. And I went there, like I said, for an overseas assignment to a city called Cluj, which is the second largest city in Romania, up in the Transylvania Mountains, beautiful area. And yeah, that time in Romania was really remarkable. So it was post-communism. The economy was really just starting to gain traction, and it was super hot. People were starting businesses. The employment was really good. Nokia came in to start a manufacturing facility, so we were the talk of the town. We were hiring thousands of people. It was a high growth environment. Lots of team buildings. Made a lot of friendships. We were there for about 4 years, I guess, and so the global crisis hit around that time, and it was still a good place to work because we were in high growth mode. So when a lot of companies were laying off and reducing, it was a good time to be there and really enjoy our life. But all good things come to an end, and we decided to transition back to the U.S. We moved back to Dallas in 2010-11 timeframe, and just kind of started living the American dream, right? So we got a big house, we had a big mortgage, each working again, long hours, just kind of the daily grind, and fairly thankless jobs, other than a few stock options here and there. And in 2016, we both found ourselves unemployed at the same time. So, life took a turn for us, and we had a lot of anxiety. 2 older daughters that I have that were just entering universities, so tuition bills, we had a mortgage, a lot of unknowns in life. But we took the opportunity to do a little bit of soul searching in between interviews. I was interviewing with some other big companies, but mostly out of state, like Tesla and Apple and Amazon, and that would have meant a relo. And so also unknown company cultures. And we just found ourselves doing a bit of soul searching, like, what is our purpose, and what do we want to do with our lives at that moment. And so, we took that opportunity to slow down a little bit and just really kind of think about what it was that we wanted to get out of life. And so about that same time, I had been also educating myself on a few other options. I was listening to Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income. There's another guy who runs a website and podcast called Side Hustle Nation, and doing some reading, and Robert Kiyosaki comes into play a little bit there with his books and his value in land investing. And so about that time, I heard 2 different podcast episodes where people were investing in vacant land and making a lot of money. And so I bought a toolkit, which was kind of a package of educational content on how to get started in land investing. This was a few months before, we were unemployed, and just because I was all in at work, it was just on my desk collecting dust. I really hadn't taken the time to look at it, but we took this opportunity to take a look at it, go through the material, and we kind of talked it over and thought, let's jump in. Let's see what this is all about. It came with some boot camp tickets, so we could attend a boot camp in person and get a little more about the ins and outs of what land investing is. We took the opportunity to find some mentors. We formed a business. We ran it like a business with metrics and formal routines and meeting cadences and things like that. And it really re-energized us, I would say. Mm-hmm. We enjoyed being our own boss. It wasn't without difficulties. We had to really pursue and persist to get through there, and I'll get into some of those here in a bit. But it like Daniel said, it really has fueled a lifestyle that we have appreciated. In that first year, we went to California and hiked the John Muir Trail. We spent about a month in the UK visiting some family. Then we went to the EU. We relocated to Colorado, where we live now, so we could be a little closer to the mountains and hiking and getting outside more frequently. And We also learned that we just didn't need so much stuff in life, right? We had a big house and a big mortgage and rooms full of furniture and all that stuff. And we took the opportunity to streamline and do all that downsizing at the same time. So, it's been a great venture, and we're super excited to kind of be in it. And it's, like I said, it's not without its downsides, as all investments / businesses are. And I'll kind of run through a little bit of those, just segment those out into what we see as the good, the bad, and the ugly of investing. And a few of the questions earlier on were touching on different aspects of buying and selling vacant land. We look at this as a business purely, and as such, with any investment or business, the key is to obviously buy low and be able to sell high. And so there are some things that you have to look at when you're getting into these types of ventures, like location that you're going to buy the land, and different aspects, or some people were talking about possibly subdividing land, buying land to build houses on. Those are all little variations. We are purely and simply buying vacant land. We're not improving it in any way, and just reselling it on the market. And a little bit about how this works is, at its simplest level, you find land and you buy it, hopefully at a low price relative to the market, and then you resell it at a higher price. So, as such, you make a margin. As with anything, though, it's not quite as simple as it sounds. There's a lot involved. So, initially there's selecting markets. I think it took us half a year before we really found a market that worked well for us. We started and had a few missteps. We were buying in places that had homeowners associations, and so all the land that people were wanting to sell had back dues that we would have had to pay. There are some counties where property taxes are allowed to build up, and so you have to be careful if you're buying a property that there's not an inordinate amount of property taxes due on it. You ideally want a certain amount of volume being sold in a county or a market where there's land, right? You don't want just an area where nobody buys land. There's an element of price evaluation. So, at its simplest level, you can go into a lot of the different sites, look at what land is selling for in a comparable type of property in size and features, and understand from a couple different aspects. One, can you afford it to invest in it, right? I mean, if it's land that's $1 million, that's difficult for a lot of people to take on. It's also difficult to resell because your buying pool is a lot smaller. But kind of once you've zeroed in, then you need to go about finding land for sale, and there's various ways to do that. I've put a few here, but ultimately you need to get a list of who are the property owners, and you can do that. The county has that information. Some counties will provide it for you. Some counties will sell it for you. There's service providers that aggregate that information, and you can buy lists of property owners. You can filter it to vacant land only if you want. You can look at commercially zoned vacant land or residentially zoned vacant land. There's also a lot of wholesalers in our business. So there are people that go out and they just buy the properties. They don't want to mess with marketing and selling it, and so they will sell it to other land investors for a premium. And so, generally what that does is it will half your margin on a property, somewhere around there. What we do is we direct mail property owners. We send them a letter, an offer that says we'll pay you X amount for your land, and it's typically on the order of 25 to 35% of the market value of what that land would bring, just based on our comp analysis. And a lot of people are insulted at the offer, but there is, a single-digit percentage of people that will usually take you up on that offer. And that's really how we make the margin that we do, which is, it's actually crazy, the margins that we make. You can also, some people we know don't send an offer. They just say, hey, we're interested in buying your land. Call us back, email us back, and we'll talk. And then obviously you buy the land, and that also comes with its own set of activities that need to happen in terms of doing due diligence, making sure the title's clean, making sure there's no back taxes, or at least they're within some amount that you would be willing to pay. You have to negotiate with the sellers. You have to record a deed. There are title companies that will do this. We typically try to avoid title companies because a lot of the properties we buy are hundreds or thousands of dollars, nothing, too outrageous. And by the time you get a title company that wants to charge $500 to $1,500, it can erase a lot of the margin on a property. So we do a lot of that ourselves, and there are counties that are very friendly to do all this electronically and don't require too much in that way. And then there's a selling aspect. So, there's marketing, there are different channels. There's official sites that you can have subscriptions to where you can list a property for sale, Lands of America or Land and Farm or other places like that. Zillow hosts vacant land if you want to put stuff up on Zillow. Facebook is a really large marketplace for buying and selling. They have buy-sell groups specific to certain regions or activities. Craigslist is another market. eBay, we know people sell some stuff on eBay auctions. So there's a lot of different marketing channels, as well as there's a few different options to sell the property. Like I mentioned, you can sell it wholesale to other land investors. That's kind of an easy and clean way to do it. You get cash in your pocket right away. Some people will just buy cash outright for properties. Probably 90 to 95% of our sales we own or finance. And so if we're selling a property for $20,000, we'll put a $200 or $250 a month payment plan in place, and we will write a contract and enter into a promissory note with a buyer, and we will maintain the loan for 4, 5, 6 years while they pay that down. That's a very attractive way for a lot of people to get into owning land, and that's really where we have most of our luck. And it turns into a nice passive income stream after time, right? So that's really what we've done, is we've built up a lot of these promissory notes such that we have a steady stream of income coming in every month. But that comes with its own set of issues where you have to look at how are you going to collect payment? Are you going to invoice every month manually? Are you going to use some kind of an automated system, checks, ACH, or credit cards, all those kind of things? And then there's a certain amount of administrative activities that come with all of that. So that's kind of a not quite a high level, but more of a medium level process flow on how the process of at least our land investing business works. Some of the good things, basically the return on your investment in this business. So we get anywhere from 200 to 1,000% return on our investment. We laugh with colleagues when we go to boot camps. A lot of times it's people get disappointed if they only double their money in a couple of months, and we laugh that this is really one of the few businesses where you can that's a bad investment if you only double your money. I mean, poor you. I would say our portfolio of land that we've sold, we average about 140% annual on what we've invested in property. So it's a fantastic return. It's given us scalability and flexibility. So you can do this as a side hustle. I know Daniel has dabbled in land investing a little bit, and we know other people that have a full-on huge land business with 10, 15 employees that are running the business. So it's you can do it on your own level. I put here it's a fairly low maintenance business. It does take a bit to get started up. I mean, there's obviously systems and resources, but you can get to the point. We know people that have a very robust business that spend an hour or two a week just guiding their employees. So they are true business owners. We're pretty much a hybrid. I mean, we do a lot of the business ourselves just because we have the time, we enjoy it. But as we get into other things, we find ourselves outsourcing a little bit more and putting in systems. The cost of entry can be low. So, I mean, you can you can find properties for hundreds of dollars, up to thousands of dollars, fairly commonly. You know, we've had people give us properties before. Just, you know, they say either maybe they owe a little bit of taxes, or they have some probate issues that they're having trouble working through, and if we'll just take care of those things for them, you know, they've done that. And so you can also, we know people that have, you can put a purchase agreement with a potential seller and say, hey, give me a purchase option for 90 days. Meanwhile, you're trying to find a buyer, and you can do a double close at the same time, where whoever you're selling the land to hands you money for the property, and then you hand the buyer. So, you know, I've known people that kind of work in that way as well. Another great option that we don't do because we're actively running a business, but you can run this theoretically from within a self-directed IRA or 401k or an EQRP or something like that. There are a little bit of restrictions in terms of how active you can be and manage your own investment, but it can be done, and it's a great way, honestly, to enjoy really huge returns and potentially, you know, do that tax-free. So that's something we've known a few people do as well. So that's just a handful of the good. Some of the bad, at least at first, you have to wear a lot of hats, right? You are trying to find properties, you are pricing properties, you're negotiating with buyers, you're doing the transactions, marketing the property, selling the properties, and so, you know, it's not really, to my knowledge, it's not a turnkey business, and so there's some amount of learning curve, and you would want to learn the business as well anyway if you're going into it. Another kind of a downside that I touched on earlier is, it sounds simple. It's you buy property and sell property, but once you kind of go down into it, it can become a lot more complex. From, if you're doing terms, you have to set up a legal contract and a promissory note to work with buyers, and you have to know the county rules in terms of how the deeds need to be recorded. If you're making owner financing, there's some maintenance on, you know, how are you going to accept payment? How are you going to manage the notes over 5 years and make sure people are paying? What are you going to do with late fees? So, you know, as with anything, there's definitely more once you start getting down into it. And there is the opportunity for errors. You can, when we got started, we bought a couple of properties, and it took us 6 or 7 months before we were able to turn those properties and sell them. And at the same time, you can, you know, there can be, we just bought a couple properties recently, actually, sight unseen, other than some satellite imagery and things like that. And, you know, once we got the properties, we noticed the next door neighbor, or, you know, he has vacant land, but he had a camper and a 15-year-old car, and I think, was it just two? And a trailer. Yeah. But they were on our property. Yeah. And so, you know, okay, we had to mess with all that. And so it's kind of little surprises like that. Or you can buy property, maybe there's a sinkhole in it, or a mountain on it, or whatever. But also in our business, a common saying is there's a pig for every barn. And so I know very little people that have ever been stuck with a property. I know people that have bought a property that is literally a mountain and sold it to a movie producer that needed land for a mountain, and he paid a mint for it. We know someone who bought a property that turned out to be a swamp, and he sold it to somebody that wanted to ride their ATVs in mud and craft a course out of it. And so, I mean, there are properties that you would think there is no way somebody's going to buy this property, and you can find a buyer for it. So, you know, it's a bad, but it's a little bit of good. And then the ugly is really taxes. So because the returns are large and they usually come in less than a year, you are subject to short-term capital gains. You're getting taxed at a higher rate. We make a really healthy income right now. And, you know, I think in our third year of business, we kind of got to a level where a lot of our write-offs were gone. We were making a really good passive income, and the tax bill came, and we both went, holy crap, like,
Have to find another solution.
Yeah, we're not,
Yeah.
you know, we're not going to pay this every year in taxes. And so that really started our journey a couple of years ago in how do we offset this? And we revisited a little Robert Kiyosaki, some others, and we saw the benefit of pairing this business with commercial real estate. And we chose to get into multifamily just really because of the scale, the bonus depreciation, cost segregation studies that can come with it. And it's you know, last year was our first year in multifamily, and it really just was magic on, you know, our P&L. And so it's great. Just we can't espouse the benefits of depreciation more, not just for land, but even for, you know, corporate employees. We're real estate professionals, and so we can take unlimited depreciation, so far at least. But you know, there's certainly advantages in terms of any business that you would get into in that regard. And so it's really been kind of a great thing for us to get into multifamily, and that's how we met Daniel, and we're really networking with a lot of other people, and it's giving us an alternate income stream and hedging our land business a bit. So it's kind of a win-win that we have going there. So that's a little bit about you know, the ins and outs of the multifamily business, the land business. If you are looking to get started, our recommendation is to take some time and do your education. There are really quite a lot of resources out on the web. There are some people out there who run coaching programs, mentorships. We signed up for one when we got started, and you know, we were going to do this full time, and so we thought about it and talked about it, and we decided we would invest in accelerating our journey, and it was very well worth our investment. And then beyond that, you know, you need to think about how you want to go about running your business. What's your purpose? Are you going to do this as a side hustle or full time? Do you want to run the end-to-end process, or do you want to enter into some wholesale type of arrangement or some other? We know another one of our multifamily networks colleagues that he put a unique spin on it. You know, he's out finding land, but he's not necessarily buying it. He's selling it. He's selling the option to buy that land to other people and just taking a cut of that. So there's a lot of unique ways to get in. There are people who don't mess with owner financing and they just do cash sales. And so they are, that limits your buying pool in that you have to find people that are ready to either find their own financing or have the cash to buy something outright, but they're out there. And then how are you going to fund your business, you know, with your own property, or with your own money, or through retirement accounts? It is a really great business to use the power of leverage, because, you know, if you're making 50, 100 to 200% return on your investment, you can really afford to use the power of leverage to drive your business. It's not necessarily something that you can invest in passively. I don't know many people that do that, and I think just from my journey in multifamily, it would be considered a security if you were taking someone's money to generate a return, and that would get pretty costly, I think, to set up the arrangement to do things like that. However, we know people who enter in joint ventures or partnerships where they bring funding and somebody else runs the business, and so there are solutions there if you're just looking to potentially have someone do the work and use your money in that way. Those could be considerations. Those would kind of be our recommendations to get started. We've put a landing page out there with a few more resources that'll, some of our favorite links, a little deeper level of process flow in regards to land investing. We also have a little guide on how to safely buy land online if you're interested in buying and selling land through an online marketplace. And then, you know, if you want to see our land website, we're there at openplainsproperties.com. You can kind of see types of properties we do and how we manage and sell those. And that's just a few extra resources if you're interested in maybe taking it a bit further. Yeah, and with that's kind of the presentation we had. I'm happy to field a few of the questions or anything out of the chat window or anything about land.
Mike and Liia, we have no shortage of questions here, but I thought maybe before we dive into some of these questions really quickly, can you walk us through some of the numbers associated with, like, say you buy a 5-acre lot, and what do those numbers look like?
Sure. In terms of the finances?
Yeah. What do you buy it for? What do you sell it for? If you sell it on a contract, what are you trying to achieve?
Sure. So a typical transaction cycle for us is we would buy. So we really like Colorado land. We love pine trees, mountain views. There's a few areas that we frequent in South Central Colorado. And so I would say out there, when we started about 4 years ago, we could buy 5 acres for $2,000 to $2,500, so $400 or $500 an acre. Over that 4 years, in this particular county, there's a lot of competition from other land investors, and the prices have really driven up. And so, today I would say we buy 5 acres for around $5,000, so it's about $1,000 an acre. We usually will put together a terms package. It kind of depends on how much upfront investment somebody's willing to do in terms of a down payment. But a lot of times what we'll do is around $500 down, and then we'll put together somewhere around $250 a month for 5 years, let's say. And, that works out to somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000 on a piece of property there. And so, back in the heyday when we started, we could also offer around that same price. We haven't raised our prices too much on the sell side, but we have a few notes that we're still carrying where we bought properties for $2,000 and we've sold it for $14,000 or $15,000 over that 5-year term. And like I said, now the margins there are a little thinner in that particular county.
I also want to add that today on a cash sale, we triple our money. So if we buy a 5 acre with 5,000, we sell it for 15,000 cash.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
That's true. And then on the terms, it's probably pushing about 20
more. Yes.
Or so.
And we typically try to get our investment back in between 10 and 12 months, if possible. But we found that like around $250 and $300 a note per month is the sweet spot.
Yeah, once you start pushing a monthly payment above $300, $350, seems like the amount of interest we get drops down quite a bit. So we try to stay in that level. Does that give you a good feel there?
Yeah, that was great.
But we have also, we have properties in West Texas, in Arizona, New Mexico. We've bought properties for $100 and sold them for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000.
Right.
It's just, but what I just described is probably our more common transaction.
All right. So let's go to the questions here, and I am going to, first of all, there's a lot of interest in construction costs, and I know that is not part of your business plan. You buy land and then you sell it, but could you just comment on construction on particularly these vacant lots? And one other question that came up here recently was a comparison between the Colorado land prices you just mentioned and North Portland, where it's $100K for an acre. And so you might want to mention zoning a little bit and just maybe talk about that a bit.
Yeah, great. So within every region, so a state or whatever, you can certainly find a range of costs. So we have some properties in Colorado that are very rural, very bare. You can buy them for $150 or $200 an acre. Where we are today, You can buy them for, we can buy them for $1,000 an acre. We sell them for $3,000 an acre, $2,500 to $3,000 an acre. There are more, and so these are very rural areas. They don't have water. They don't have much electricity running through them. They have pockets of, wires running through them. There's no, so you know, if you want to develop a property, you're doing it off grid mostly. So you're going to have to sink a well. You're going to have to go solar or bring some type of electricity, put in a septic system. So that's typically where we gravitate is more towards those properties, just because, as Liia mentioned, we try to keep our price point in a certain zone. We found for us, it's a sweet spot for being able to turn properties more quickly. We have bought more expensive properties, and we have to hold on to them for a little bit longer until we find that buyer. Now, within Colorado, as you can imagine, there are also areas where, yes, properties are $100,000 an acre, or you get in more developed areas or closer to towns or ski areas or things like that, or a more densely populated residential community where maybe there's just one or two lots. That's not really our business model, just because it's harder to find those people. It's also harder to get them to let go of their property at a discount, because they can obviously just put their property up for sale and get the market for it fairly easily. We've bought properties in Oregon in a few areas, and we found some pockets where it is also rural, and you can pick them up more cheaply. But yeah, developmental costs. I mean, so this is homework we do before we go into a county. We do our online research. We will call the planning and zoning department and learn just what it takes, because a lot of people will ask this when they're trying to buy our properties. And so we try to arm ourselves with some information, as well as not get in overly restrictive markets. But yeah, each county has its own set of rules and regulations subordinate to the state, where a lot of times they have a minimum square footage. So they say, we don't want you building a tiny home. We want a certain home of 700 square feet or more. You have to have water if you're going to build something permanent. You have to have a septic. Campers, yes or no, for how long. And so, yeah, each market's a little bit different, and certainly price points are a bit different. And I know people who buy $100,000 properties and will remarket them and sell them. It's just it's a personal preference, as well as a little bit of financing questions. There are people that target properties that have commercial uses versus residential, or I know people that have dabbled in trying to find land that would be good for solar, leasing to solar companies or solar farms. The Hubbards who are coming up in a few weeks, they have a unique spin on buying West Texas dirt, and they're going to convert it into vineyards. It's a fascinating business model, and there's some good returns for investors. So yeah, there's a wide variety of ways you can go about it.
And just to add a little bit on the zoning, we try to keep the properties that we invest in are residential/recreational.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our customers love to be able to go out there because it's like in undeveloped areas. They love to go and camp and hunt, or use the property just for recreational purposes and maybe build in the future. So we kind of try to find that middle ground that Mike was talking about, that some counties do not allow you to camp. So, it's kind of hard to turn those properties around.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have 6 minutes left, and so we're not going to get to all the questions, but I'll pull out some key ones here. Isla is asking, what features, for instance, roads, near water, developed area, energy producing, what features do you look for when considering land?
Yeah, great question. So as we mentioned, we're a little more rural focused, but early on, we did buy some properties that were technically landlocked, and that becomes a very difficult sell for people. There are hunters that are okay with, cross-trekking and getting out to remote areas that actually look for that. But we look for roads. We don't necessarily have to have electricity or infrastructure, but that's highly sought after if you find a good subdivision where you can get affordable land. There's a lot of people that want to build and they don't want to build off grid. So, those are certainly key factors that we look for. There's a certain visual appeal that we like. It's not necessary. I mean, we get some of our better returns on just dirt. I mean, it's there's a pig for every barn. So there's a lot of people that like that.
All right. Brandon is asking, are you indifferent in terms of whether a property is fully entitled or not?
Fully entitled. So I'm not sure if I'm...
Yeah, I suppose maybe that means there's no encumbrances on, the property, or maybe somebody owns it completely. It's not a situation where it's been handed down to, 3 different grandkids where you have to track them down.
In terms of a clean title, we like it to be a clean transaction. However, there is value in helping people work through sticky situations. And so we have, the more people you get on a title, the more challenging it becomes to collect all the signatures and make sure that it holds up. We have done that. We've also helped people through probate where, maybe a spouse passes away and somebody doesn't quite know how to handle doing the filing with the county. So, we like to provide value to people in that way, and it usually works out well for us. In terms of the land itself, we definitely, so most properties have some level of easements or rights of ways. We try to keep it as clean as possible, but in some areas that's just the nature of, if you're going to have future infrastructure coming through there, most counties will put perimeter boundaries such that they can run electricity or water or things like that if it comes down to it.
All right, we've got 2 minutes left, and one question that's come up here from Rachel is, what factored into your decision not to do this in a self-directed IRA given the taxes?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when we first started our business, we didn't have a self-directed IRA, and I don't think I even knew what that was. We quickly discovered the power of it. My understanding of the self-directed IRAs is that we can't invest in something that we are actively managing. So even we use it a lot in our multifamily business, but we do it passively. So we'll just invest in deals as a limited partner. I believe there are some restrictions, like you can't technically invest in if you're a general partner because you're an active partner, and so I believe there's a boundary, and that's just why we haven't done that. So there would have to be some requirement for that. That's at least my understanding. I'd probably best to speak with somebody who knows a bit more about those.
So one question that we have here is, how do you find these cheap properties?
Yeah, so we look for counties where there's a large number, thousands of landowners, vacant landowners, and like I said, we do a lot of Google searching. We'll look on Google Earth and other things to kind of find pockets of areas where there's a lot of rural land. We'll approach the counties and we'll use a service provider. They have, because you pay property taxes on properties, and so they know who are the deeded owners of the properties, and so you can get those lists. And we just have a regular weekly process where we mail to 50 or 100 or 500 or whatever. We just kind of keep a regular cadence going, and we expect usually to get around 2 to 3% of a response rate on our mailings. And so for every 100 mailers we send out, we'll get a couple of people that say, hey, I'm potentially interested to sell my land. Our conversion rate is usually 1 to 0.5%. So, if we send out 100 mailers, we can typically net a property out of that. And it's just, there's a certain percentage of people that are either tired of paying their property taxes, or they inherited their land and they're never going to do anything with it, or their spouse bought land decades ago with the dream of building something and they passed away and it's not going to happen. Or, there's some people that just are willing to kind of unload their properties, or we offer to pay back taxes if people have back taxes within reason in some ways. And so, yeah, it's just a process of casting a net and getting some responses.
All right, Mike and Liia, can you give us your contact information one more time so people can reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. Our business website is deetonequitypartners.com. You can reach either of us at Mike at deetonequitypartners.com or Liia at deetonequitypartners.com. And that's probably the easiest way. We have a few other sites, but that'll get us.
Hey guys, so this is one of the most unique real estate investment business strategies that I've heard of, and I'm sure there's probably going to be a lot of questions. We might want to have you back for a follow-up. We'll see. But thank you very much for being here, and everybody here, send them a thank you and give them your love for coming and presenting to us.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.